MMT followers, Christina Fuchs with Moldmaking Technology, back for another MMT Chat. Today's topic may seem unappealing and easy to ignore at first, but I assure you, you'll discover how two shops transformed their businesses by mastering financial management. And so can you. Today, we have three guests. From a small family-owned shop in Romeo, Michigan, we have Tom Barr, president of TK Molds and Engineering. For over 20 years, this shop has specialized in plastic injection molds and low-volume plastic injection molding. Representing a mid-sized operation in Englewood, Colorado, we have president and CEO at Reata Engineering and Machine Works, Grady Cope. This shop delivers machining and assembly services for businesses specializing in complex medical products, semiconductor capital equipment, aerospace defense, and industrial products. And finally, from a holding company that partners with transitioning manufacturing owners to preserve their legacies and protect jobs through attractive financial opportunities, we're joined by Troy Roberts, CEO of Beanstalk Collaborative Community Wealth out of Denver, Colorado. And he also represents the American Mold Builders Association as a current board member. Let's dive in.
And why am I here? And
Okay.
I'm here because we're a holding company looking to acquire precision manufacturing businesses, somewhere in between the 5 to 15 million in sales range. And what we see, generally speaking, we do not see the investment by these companies in the financial side of the business, and which is really hard for the business to do well without that investment being made. And I would further say, as someone who evaluates businesses, this is something that we look at, that it increases the valuation that we put on a business if they've made this investment, as they've made in the other parts of their business operationally. If they've made this investment in people and processes on the financial side, that business is clearly worth more money, period. And we acquired a tool maker, Tolerance Tool. I joined the board of the American Mold Builders Association, and we've made that one of our critical offerings to help grow membership, is to help them understand the importance of financial literacy. And I know two people here, Tom Barr and Grady Cope, that have been through this journey.
Grady, before hiring a fractional CFO, what were your main financial challenges and how did they affect your daily operations? And we want the before stories, what we're trying to set here.
So before hiring a fractional CFO, Reata had, we did it the same way most startup companies or small companies do. We had a bookkeeper and we had me, and we had QuickBooks, which kind of held our hands a little bit, but we didn't do much, forward planning. We didn't do budgeting at the time, per se. Mostly we worked with tax accountants at the end of the year to deal with taxes and stuff like that. But we didn't think we could afford to have a financial firm do modeling for us and things like that. So we just weren't very sophisticated. It was just about mostly the receivables and payables and getting those taken care of, and hopefully QuickBooks showed a profit at the end of the day. And the balance sheet was probably a disaster, and we would do journal updates from the tax accounting firm at the end of every year. But it probably wasn't a really good reflection of what the company was at that time.
Yeah, and for me, Christina, so at TK Mold, again, mom and pop shop, smaller injection mold builder. This was the stuff I was doing in the evenings. During the day, my strength is obviously in the mold making trade. So the financial stuff was kind of second fiddle. It kind of was when I could squeeze it in at night, trying to figure out payables, receivables, chasing money. Before I found out about the fractional CFO opportunities that are out there, I was spending most of my time in the evenings after running the shop during the day, working on all the financial stuff for banking, the insurance, cash flow projections, best I could do with my background. So that my challenges were I was way involved, knee deep in the business and not working on the business. So my challenges were that, and that's why I was looking for some help.
So now let's go through what were some of the key changes, like the most important changes that that fractional CFO implemented, and then describe a little bit how that impacted like your financial health of the
Yeah.
business.
So the first thing when I hired the CFO, the fractional CFO, the first thing they do is come in and they evaluate your business. They from looking at your P&L, your balance sheet, all the stuff that surrounds your financial situation. And what they do is they make sure they understand it. First of all, they understand in our case, the mold making business, and then they want to make sure that the information that they're looking at is accurate and correct. And once they did that, they immediately went to a 13-week cash flow template that they have and worked with myself and my bookkeeper at the time to get all the vendors in line and everybody who we deal with. And so they also worked with things that I didn't even know they did was insurance. We're looking at contracts, looking at our shop insurance, our health insurance, all that stuff to help us make sure we had the right coverage and all that kind of stuff. So there was a real deep dive into what TK Mold has and where they're at financially.
All right, so they really made you look at things differently and take a whole different approach.
Yeah.
Grady, same thing.
Almost, except that I was in real trouble. I was in trouble with the bank when I brought on a fractional CFO, and they came in and their first job that my fractional CFO, who's now my full-time CFO's name's Tom. So first thing Tom did was come in and he started doing extensive cash flow because we were out of money and have to manage our our uh, our 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 payables and receivables as such. So we spent he would come in every Monday and sit down and we would work through all that to make sure that we would live to survive another week and through another payroll. And then he worked with me with the bank to see us through this. Not because the bank was willing to work or anything. They weren't very excited. It was a real bad time economically as well. And so we just worked through it together, and I learned plenty. And he managed my cash in such a way that we were able to survive it, and then turn around the following year and have probably the best year we'd ever had in the history of the company.
That's a nice segue into what were the significant improvements. So talk about that a little bit. So since you got Tom, are there two, three main things that you have seen, your overall decision making and the financial health of the business?
Right. So with having Tom on board, now that he's full time, the first thing he did was he came in and he found all kinds of reoccurring expenses that we could shed. He began managing cash flow, which basically meant he was managing me in terms of controlling my capital expenditures and things like that. He's the first person in the company that has ever been able to say no to me that I listened to. So if I wanted to buy something and he said no, but he would then add not now, we'll see about it. So he controlled that aspect. He also took worked with the customers to get customers' terms more in line with what we needed. And the same token, he worked with the vendors to get their terms so they matched our customer terms, so that our inflow and outflows were pretty equal on when we were paying. And then over time, there was a plan to get rid of the line of credit, and we paid off our line of credit, and it's been paid off for more than 18 months now. And that was a big deal to me because that was just Tom managing the business. He manages the bank. I don't have to deal with the bank on negotiations. He manages um, on the HR aspect. He manages raises and keeps control of all that. It's much more organized, much more developed, and there's long-term plans to keep strategic people that we want to keep in the company. We have plans for that now, implemented financial plans for them and for the company to keep those people. And it's just made my job. So I don't, to this day, I only have to worry about the financial part when he tells me we need to worry about this. Most of the time, I don't.
Let's talk about that. All right. So you set the stage. We have that before snapshot. So now you have that fractional CFO. Let's talk about significant improvements. How did Tom help you work through or negotiate those complex contracts or negotiations and dealings with distributors, for example?
Sure. So one of the first things that Tom did was he came in and he went entirely through the books and found all of these phantom expenses out there, and he got rid of those. Then the next thing he started working on was, you know, our terms from payment from our customers were all over the place. Some of them were 90 days, some were 60, some were 30. And then for our vendors, most of them they were all net 30. And so Tom talked with customers and he tried to get them to bring their terms in, and many of them did work with us to bring their terms in. So right now, the longest terms we have are 60 days. And then he worked with the vendors to get them the ones that would, that we bought most for the 60-day customer. He brought those in to where they would give us 60-day terms, and everybody was happy. It was a negotiated process. Everybody's happy. They knew they were going to get their money on time, and we kept our word on that. And so now we're at a place where our average receivables come in 45 days, and our average payables occur in 45 days, which is great for cash flow.
What I was going to say, and to add to what Grady said, is that one thing Dennis did for us is he helped me evaluate customers and help sort out which customers are ones that we wanted to keep, do an analysis from our quoting process to our job cost details to payment terms. And we kind of came up with a list of which customers are ones that we can afford to deal with, and which ones are pulling us down or they cost us more time and effort than what the other ones do, whether it's financially or service wise. But so again, he helped us evaluate what the customers without even knowing any of the situations, just going by the numbers. The numbers really don't lie at that point.
And just to add to that, that was the one thing that did, is it gave me confidence that we could fire certain customers, and we could certainly put customers on hold that weren't paying us, when in the past I would just let them ride and thinking if I got too mean, they might go away. But reality is none of them went away. They started paying on time, and then the customers we needed to go away, we had the courage to tell them that we were done.
Yeah. Because now they just gave you more confidence in basically in your books, right? Now you can talk from a position of authority where you weren't able to before.
Yeah.
You know better. Yeah. How did this change your relationship with your bank, Tom?
It definitely, our relationship with the bank definitely had a lot more credibility because when they asked for information, it was provided exactly what they wanted, not me trying to figure it out on a part-time basis as I'm trying to run the shop. So the bank and a lot of these fractional CFO people network with banks too. So it's amazing what the relationship they already have with banks. So in fact, we just signed a new deal. We switched banks that I had been with a long time, and Dennis had gotten a better interest rate and line of credit, all that stuff. He definitely improved our situation with the bank, and he handled that from start to finish, and it was a great process. And definitely TK Mold benefited by having that kind of leadership in that financial world.
To go off of that, is one of the great things about having a CFO is that they do negotiate those lower prices and better deals, and they make covenants go away because the bank, I always have said it's really weird. You don't know who the customer is. Is the bank the company? Is it the bank our customer, or are we their customer? Because the bank makes you feel like they're the customer, so you need to give them everything they want. Well, no, Tom came in and
Turned the
he learned
tables.
it. He said no. What we needed to be saying, and now I think the best thing to sum that all up is this last year we were at an event, and I was with the president of the bank that we work with, and he said to me, he said, what's interesting now is you guys used to have to plan to when you come to us to talk. Now we have to plan our plan because we know whatever we offer, Tom's going to tell us no. We're going to have to have a fallback point. We didn't switch banks. The bank got bought out, and they got a new underwriting department, and so that's where Tom really came in and calmed their underwriting department down and got it to where they understood manufacturing. And because the key is a lot of banks don't understand us. They,
Right.
our balance sheets and our financials are way more complex than other people. And, we cash flow a lot of cash, and you need somebody to really help you talk to the bank and talk their language and make them happy, or at least make them think they're happy.
So you both, from what I understand too, it sounds like the fractional CFO gets into more than just, your money situation. They get into the people side of things. So, Tom, you want to talk a little bit about how they play into, or how they can, if you're looking for that, the HR side of the business, because that's a big pain too.
Yeah, so that is, and like bankers, insurance is another part of the business. It's not the fun, sexy part of the business, but Dennis was able to break down our policies for TK as far as all the liability and all the coverage that we do have, and made sure that, and he found that we were overinsured on some sides and we were underinsured on other sides. So again, he took that and broke it down. But another thing that I want to talk about too is that what's amazing to me, like mold makers know software, they know CAD, CAM, all that stuff, but CFOs, the ability to do things with such a program like Excel that was, when I sit there and try and do a formula in Excel, it takes me 5 minutes. They could put together automated information that my team just puts in numbers, and boom, it populates it. We can project our sales, we project all the stuff. And that was one thing, like kind of a hidden benefit to what a CFO gave TK anyway, is that the ability to manipulate data and make analysis out of that, so using Excel might sound simple to everybody, but when I saw what Dennis can do with it, it's unbelievable. He could pull information out of our ERP system, put it in Excel and all that stuff. I was not doing any of that kind of analysis. So that has been a real time saver, and it's really helped my team work on their budgets and their timelines and workload studies and all that stuff.
Was that something that organically just happened as he was in the business, or did you say, "Hey, can you look at this side now?"
So the other yeah. So what happened was he could see that it was a struggle in how I was managing things. So what he did is he recommended that we implement the EOS system. So at the time, I couldn't afford a implementer to pay an implementer. So Dennis took on the role as an implementer of the EOS model, and our meetings, we call them L10 Lite because it really is not a sanctioned EOS thing, but we all followed the process, and he helped lead that process. And what we found in that part is that he really educated my managers how to be accountable and responsible. If anybody knows the EOS model, which we've had a few seminars and talks about it through the AMBA, but it is super beneficial to any size shop, help you structure the way you do things in your shop.
So Grady, talk to me about how did the fractional CFO help you on the human resource side of the business?
Right, no problem. Real quick though, on the EOS thing, a banker gave Tom that book several years ago, and Tom took that book home and read it, and it has more tabs in it and things. But Tom has been the implementer for us doing the EOS here. So
It's the same thing.
yeah, and EOS gets into the HR side as well. But where Tom really excelled in the HR is, so I would say most entrepreneurs are all over the place and not as organized, and certainly not paying attention to the HR side as they should, because they're working in the business and they know everybody's going to get paid and they know everybody's going to get a raise, and so they start running HR out of the from the seat of their pants, and somebody comes up and asks for a raise, and you say, "Oh yeah, they probably deserve one," and you go back and you give them a raise, and then they tell somebody else, and now all of a sudden you have no plan to your raise, and so Tom implemented a full policy on we do raises once a year. They're budgeted. Their people have, there's a system that we go over to track people's progress, and so they know what kind of raise they're going to get, and they know if they didn't get as much of a raise as they want, why. He's also implemented a plan. So since I'm, getting old and at some point will leave the business, we wanted to stay bonus to be able, and basically it's a deferred salary plan for all the key people here, so that they'll get that money the day I switch the business ownership, and
Succession
whoever's
plan.
right, and whoever's buying the business will have an opportunity then to tie those people up at the same time. So we've implemented those kinds of things. We've implemented special vacation plans for salaried people. I mean, we've just covered the gamut, so that everything's really organized. You know, nobody can game the system. The system is well defined, and Tom's pretty good at telling me when I want to work outside the system that I can't, and all the employees now know that can't just come to Grady and get something changed. So that's worked out really good on that side. And then just to trigger off of the modeling thing on Excel, I mean, that's the other thing you get. You get that whole planning side, budgeting side that you didn't have before. And it's a model that they, every month when you get your last month's financials, that model's updated to show if you're tracking towards the great part of the end of the year, or not tracking, or what's off and what you need to implement to fix it.
A final note for this portion of it. If you had to define in one word or one sentence what a fractional CFO is, how would you define it?
These are valued team members. They've got a management team, whether they're fractional or full-time. That function is very valued. And it's almost like the glue that sort of holds it all together, if you will. You look at all these areas you touched on, from the budgeting and planning, cash flow management, people management, CapEx, decision making. How do you present information so that good consensus decisions can be made? If it's emotions, because I'm in this department fighting against this department, it becomes very emotional. It's not being presented in a way where you can make good decisions. So just keep that in mind, Tom and Grady, when you're thinking of that. Like when you didn't have that, and this is what blows my mind when I go out and see companies, where I say you're going into a fight with one arm tied behind your back. Guess what? You're not going to win. Or if you win, it's going to be lucky, because it's really hard to win without having that full complement together of a team to go out and do battle with.
I like that valued team member, because that's kind of what I was getting at too. Like, yeah, it's not just somebody you hired.
So I'm going to define Tom, because I say this to people all the time. It's the single best asset I've ever purchased at Reata. Yeah.
He's getting choked up.
It's yeah.
Man, Tom, man, you gotta get a room.
I'm gonna cry over it. No, it's the single best asset, best asset I've ever brought into Reata, and the numbers behind it are incredible. It doesn't matter, I bought $1 million machines, I bought all kinds of other things. It's the single best asset that's ever been added, and it keeps paying every year. So
that's a good one. Thank you, gentlemen. And for all those watching, be sure to check out part 2. What exactly is a fractional CFO, and how do I hire one? And for all things mold making, visit moldmakingtechnology.com. Stay informed and stay inspired.